Back here on CBS Sports Network, where we have a classic SEC rivalry game to look forward to on Saturday. The Florida Gators hosting number 23 Tennessee at the Swamp. Florida 3-7 have lost 3 straight games, all since Billy Napier was dismissed from his head coaching duties. With the postseason now out of sight, these guys playing for some pride on their home turf. As far as Tennessee, though, they're on the far outside looking in at 7-3 with losses to Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma. For much more on what to expect this weekend at the Swamp, let's go ahead and say hello to our own Chip Patterson and Richard Johnson. Gentlemen, so great to see you. Chip, I'll start with you. We just saw on that graphic Tennessee's last win in Gainesville came back in 2003. They'll look to end a 10-game skid. What chances do you give them?
Oh, I mean, decent chances. They're the favorite in the game, even playing in the Swamp on the road. But this is a situation where playing for pride on the Florida side, I agree. But also, if you are Tennessee and if you're somebody around that program, then it doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter how many of the players are healthy or out injured, of which there are many. Beating Florida in the Swamp is still beating Florida in the Swamp. Look to the way that the Kentucky Wildcats handled their business with the Gators earlier this season. I think that what we are seeing now is that in the Southeastern Conference, especially with some of these old storied rivalries, it doesn't matter what the coaching situation is or how down or up you are having as a season. I think Tennessee is going to bring it and relish the opportunity to snap this drought.
Yeah, I also think Tennessee should probably watch themselves, because you can ask Ole Miss, like, I thought this Florida team was dropping the rope, particularly with how that Kentucky game played out. But you can ask Ole Miss about Saturday night. This Florida team is still playing for each other. It does appear, and Ole Miss came very close to really stubbing that toe on Saturday night. So Tennessee, again, should tread carefully. I know the record's not very good for Florida, and they don't really have much to play for, so it seems, but that can be when a team is actually the most dangerous.
I want to play off of Chip's point because I absolutely loved it. Beating Florida in the Swamp is still beating Florida in the Swamp, right? Rivalry games always present big opportunity no matter what the opponent's record is. So, Chip, how big of an opportunity does this Tennessee defense have in front of them, who ranks 15th in the SEC in terms of scoring defense right now?
Yeah, I think that this is a spot where you're seeing this Tennessee defense sometimes is playing a little bit disjointed. Sometimes the communication isn't always there. They do a good job of, even with those bad scoring statistics, sometimes being able to make the most of giving up yards, a little bend but don't break. Because even in the blowout win last week, I think Tennessee's defense was disappointed with how they were unable to get enough stops consistently and gave up a bunch of yards. So for the Vols, it is an imperfect part of their team without a doubt. And the way that Florida is limited in terms of skill position injuries, they should be able to have the upper hand. But if they don't, well, then now you're just starting to say that this is something of who they are. So for Tennessee's defense, you are going against one of the lower scoring output teams in the SEC. Let's see if they can rise to the occasion.
Well, they might be able to, Chip, because, look, Florida's had turnover issues so far this season. You have DJ Lagway throws 5 interceptions against LSU, 3 interceptions, and a benching against Kentucky, for instance. If you're Tennessee, you say, well, he might give us some cookies, and we may be able to really get rolling and get our groove back because we're able to force some turnovers from a turnover-prone Florida team.
Coming right back to you on this, Richard, who specifically will you have your eyes on in this matchup as an impact player for the Vols?
Well, for the Vols, it's Joey Aguilar. In this one, can they continue to find ways on offense to continue to build and continue to play well? This Florida defense does pose issues. It does pose a good, especially up front, young defensive line core. Going to have Joey Aguilar under duress at some points in time in this game, but Florida's got a young secondary, young pieces in their banged up secondary, I think, and Tennessee should come out in this game thinking that they can feast. Whether they can or can't is another thing entirely.
Yeah, Joey Aguilar, can you play a clean game, my man? You are on the road. You are playing at night. You are against a Florida team that, as Richard mentioned, has not dropped the rope. Joey Aguilar, 4 interceptions in his last 2 games. Only 10 on the year, but 4 of them in the last 2 weeks. 2 against Oklahoma, 2 against New Mexico State. That is the recipe for getting beat in this spot is if Joey Aguilar cannot take care of the ball. And in the highs and lows from his entire career, all going back to App State as well, we have always seen the touchdowns. We've always seen the ability. The downside is not necessarily being risk averse, sometimes putting the ball in bad situations. So for Joey Aguilar, playing a clean game might even be more important than having 3-4 touchdowns in this game.
Let's flip the script here to Florida's quarterback and what we really need to see from DJ Lagway in this offense, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, I think that DJ Lagway, given some of the issues coming into the season, given the absence of always being healthy, always being in line and sync with his wide receivers, we understand where those failings are. What I'm actually encouraged by with DJ Lagway is how he does seem to be empowering some of the players that are stepping up. You know, whether it is an Abrams, whether it is a Sturdivant, you know, players who aren't the most talented in that room and haven't been able to be on the field for that. But Lagway still seems to be finding ways to connect with them, helping them level up. Those are certainly signs of good quarterback. So he's going to need to continue that. I think DJ Lagway's been all right this season. Certainly not the highest ceiling projections, but DJ Lagway just needs to keep building on what I thought was a good first half against Ole Miss.
Yeah, for Lagway, it's just been so up and down for so many different reasons. And I mean, you're just, the wide receiver core now is again hewn out. You got Tank Hawkins opting out. You've got Dallas Wilson out for the season. You've got Trey Wilson again out for the season, for the second season in a row. So you've just got to have all these players, all this chop and change in that room. And you combine that with DJ Lagway's own injury concerns that he did not start the season healthy. It's just been very, very up and down for Florida. And you've seen that in this play, right? Very inconsistent. You've got a game where the LSU game, for instance, where he throws 5 interceptions. And then you have the Georgia game, for instance, where at least he did enough to kind of get Florida in a spot where they could conceivably almost win that game and almost stun Georgia. And then Kentucky the next week where he ends up being benched for Tramel Riggs. So it's just been so up and down for Florida so far in offense this season.
Yeah, and Chip, Richard just brought it up. Unfortunately, comes into this game with mounting injuries. Florida does offensively. Receivers Dallas Wilson, Eugene Wilson will both be out. How confident are you in Florida's depth?
Not very. And one thing where I think we might see it on display is in the second half of this ball game, because we had a really good start on both sides of the ball. I know that Ole Miss was able to get out there and score a little bit, but I thought that Florida was competing. Florida was in that game. Florida had a good start against Ole Miss, and then offensively they couldn't get the short yardage and the key downs that they needed in the second half. Obviously, turnover as well. And then defensively, they were really struggling to get the stops that they needed. And I wonder if we got to talk to Billy Gonzalez and that skeleton staff if they would agree. But Richard, to my eye, one of the things that was contributing to Florida just really, letting go of that game in the second half had to be how tested they are from a depth perspective because of all the mounting injuries. Florida's just got to find a way to get there all the way to the fourth quarter, and that's going to be tough.
Yeah, and especially when you've got young players in environments like you had Vaught Hemingway on Saturday night. You're a little wide-eyed, and then you think that, okay, we're in the first half, and we're pitching, we're stopping them, and we're getting some stops, we're getting them off the field. But a team like Ole Miss that may be a little bit more veteran laden, that's kind of been in these battles in high leverage spots, can kind of think, okay, look, we can outlast Florida. We've been here before. And so, you wonder how that pops up, especially in a game like this that's at home. And you may think Florida will at least come out and start fast potentially, but how will they finish?
So with all that being said, Richard, is your player to watch in terms of the Gators maybe a younger receiver or someone that needs to step up in that receiving room?
Jordan, it's actually a defensive lineman who hadn't played in a long time, and Caleb Banks. Our Matt Zenitz reports that there's some optimism that Caleb Banks may actually be back for this game this weekend. Caleb Banks hasn't played in weeks. He's had a foot injury, and it's really been hampering him. My thing with that is I think that's indicative of at least something in that locker room where these guys want to play. These guys want to play for each other. You got Caleb Banks, who honestly, it was an open question whether he was going to come back this season at all, could have gone to the NFL draft. And now whether he was going to shut it down for the rest of the season or come back because of how it could affect his NFL draft stock if his foot injury were to be further inflamed. But no, it does seem that there is some optimism, at least, that he's going to come back and play in this game after a long period out. I think that speaks to the fact that maybe this Florida team has not dropped the rope yet.
First of all, I absolutely love that. because, it's like flipping on its head. Beating Florida is still beating Florida. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter what's going on with our situation. Beating the Vols are still beating the Vols. Love to hear that news, Richard, from Matt Zenitz and Caleb Banks. Man, what a dog in him. Okay, speaking of dog, let's go to a freshman dog. Let's go to somebody who did step up. TJ Abrams, as we've continued to see all these skill players go out with injuries, that he is making the most of his opportunity. He's somebody who might have a bright future ahead of him. And I do think Florida's offense, they have not been very productive this year. They will have to score points. They will have to hit some explosive plays. Tennessee does give up explosive plays. I'm looking to see if Abrams can continue to stack good performances with more of a workload.
All right, coming right back to you, Chip. Let's end here with a game prediction. Just taking a look here, Tennessee only favored by 3.5.
Yeah, I think Tennessee gets it done, but Jordan, let me say the under might get my look. I think that this is going to be a game where maybe the offense doesn't click in a road environment, but Tennessee has been the better team. I think they'll be the winner. So I'm going to say lower scoring, Vols win.
I think it's going to be kind of the story of Florida's season so far, which is I think Florida's going to put up enough of a fight, but close in the end, and Tennessee gets the victory and finally breaks the streak, the streak that they've been on the wrong side of in Gainesville so many times.
I don't know, you guys. Things kind of get weird at the Swamp, especially in prime time, 7:30 kickoff. I might be rolling with the upset here, but I do like the under. It is set right now at 57.5. I might be taking that, Chip Patterson. Richard Johnson, also great to see you both here on CBS Sports Network. Chip and the guys have your big game breakdown all set on the Cover 3 podcast. All you got to do, scan that QR code on your screen and watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts.